It's time for playtests, my favorite part of game design because after playtesting, you will quickly learn that your game is trash and everything needs to be updated. Well, I've done this enough times to catch some of the usual stuff before playtesting, but there was one thing that literally everyone who playtested my game asked for: an undo button. You see, it's really easy to make mistakes in my game. When one character plays a card, the other character gets 1 mana of that color, and then that character can play a card and it gives 1 mana back. But the cards and mana have colors, so you have to figure out the right card order, and then you play this card and that card, and oh, I put this card in the wrong spot. Now I just have to do it again, but this time put this card over there and that card over there, and then I just get it right, and we can finally press the end turn button and blast them with a bajillion damage. Gameplay. I mean, the reset turn button worked for me, but everyone else wanted more. They wanted the ability to go back just 1 step, instead of resetting their whole turn if they ended up making a small mistake. So I got to work implementing this thing. An undo feature isn't that novel. There are a lot of ways of doing it. For example, I could take a snapshot of the board state right before an action took place, and then revert to that snapshot if an undo was requested. This was actually how my game worked already with the reset button, but that only took a snapshot at the beginning of the turn, because the snapshot itself is pretty large. It remembers the stats on every single card, as well as player mana, deck, and discard piles. If I take a snapshot before every single card is played, that's a lot of data being stored and moved around, not to mention most of it is just duplicate. An alternative is to give an undo function to each card that would undo the effects of playing that card. If a card granted mana and drew a card, then the undo would subtract mana and remove the drawn card. But the problem with this was that I would need a separate undo function for every card in the game, and if I change how a card works, I would also have to change that card's undo function as well. But what if I went a little smaller and instead recorded each individual generic action a card takes? For example, if a card draws another card and grants mana, that's 2 separate actions, and each of those actions is recorded in a sequential timeline. Then when I want to undo a card, I can undo all of its actions in order. Of course, this means if I want to go all the way back to the beginning, I'd have to undo all of the actions that happened after it to get back to the beginning, instead of the snapshot method, which would allow me to discard subsequent board states and jump straight back. I ended up choosing the start option, and now if you pick up a card that you already played, it automatically undoes everything that happened after that card had been played, and it allows you to place it in a new spot or return it to your hand. I've got to say, this was a huge improvement to the game feel and quality of life. However, this quickly led to another problem, because it was easy to forget what order you played your cards in, and if you retrieved a card, you could accidentally retrieve more than what you intended. My initial thought was to have numbers on the cards to tell you what order they were played in, but this could cause confusion for newer players, who might think that this was the order the cards attacked in. That's not the case. The cards always activate from left to right. Eventually, I decided that if the player hovers their cursor over the reset button, then it would show the order that the cards were played in. And since the player knows that's the reset button, it reduces the confusion as to what these numbers mean. But the undo button wasn't the only thing that was requested. I spent quite a bit of time updating and improving a lot of small things. For example, the rewards in the reward screen weren't visible enough, and people would often select the continue button instead of choosing their rewards. I changed the continue button to say skip, which instantly fixed that problem. There were also several questions about how enemy damage was calculated. Is this offense already added to the value of the enemy's attack, or do I have to add it on top of the displayed amount? I updated the tooltips to show how the damage of an enemy's attack was calculated to fix that confusion. There was also this funny issue where the tooltips for enemy self-buffs were lacking. I added significantly more details for each buff to explain what the enemy was about to do. There were also some players who didn't realize you could close the deck view by reselecting the button you used to open it. I added a back button in the bottom of the screen to allow an alternative way to close the deck view, so you're not trapped here forever. In addition, the card removal screen used to display all the cards of both characters together, which caused some confusion, especially if the characters were using the same card. I added an extra step where the player chose the character first and then viewed their cards, but this revealed another problem. I found that players liked checking their decks while using the relic selection screen or upgrade selection screen in order to decide which character to give an upgrade to. The problem was, it was really easy to accidentally select the character and grant them the relic instead. This was because the button was actually a square while the image itself was a diamond, so there was this invisible hitbox where the player could accidentally select the character portrait and grant them a relic instead of selecting the deck. I rotated this invisible button and also made the portrait expand when the cursor was hovering over it to make it abundantly obvious what you were about to click on. There were a lot of quality of life improvements as requested by my playtesters, but what I was really looking for was feedback on balance. Is this card too expensive? Is that enemy too easy? Is this combo of characters twice as strong as the rest? These are questions that I need answers to, and I need a fresh perspective to truly grasp that. But my playtesters are still relatively new to the game, so I guess I'll have to wait for future playtests to get feedback on that. That about sums up all the updates I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're interested, check out my game on Steam. And of course, wishlisted as well. But aside from that, these updates are posted somewhat irregularly right here on my YouTube channel, so subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.